Okay. Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. The subject matter today is terror, in the sense that, a resurgence of it, especially in the northeast. And our guest to talk about that with us, for we had thought that we were actually making strides against the scourge, but we find out that that isn't indeed the case. There would appear to have been a reawakening of the terror that is being unleashed. We don't know by who, but the usual suspect is Boko Haram and its renewed killings campaign in the northeast. Dr. John Ngamsa, he's a university don. He's special advisor to the governor of Yobe State on communication and strategy, as well as being a public affairs commentator and lecturer. A fine morning to you, Dr. Ngamsa.
Good morning, Yuri. How are you?
Indeed. Thank you very much for making the time for us. When it hit the news that this was the situation that we were facing, for those who are not close to the, shall we say, to the theater of operations, since we have security people there, people would have felt it was a setback because they might have thought that we were actually making gains in the war against terror. But now it seems that not so. Now, you first of all, you please give us perspective to the renewed killings that are reportedly going on in the northeast, especially in the Adamawa area. What exactly? We hear that in the nature of revenge killings for citizens speaking to the authorities about their activities. Put us in context, sir.
Well, I think maybe there is a little misinformation there, or direction to say. More precisely, when you talk about security in the Northeast, definitely you don't exempt Adamawa for one, because for some time it's been an issue of the fact that we are bordering Buni State directly, and then Yobe State is also bordering Buni on the other flank. And basically, whatever obtains anywhere happens around, and that you find that Adamawa remains a haven, for some of these riffraffs. And as they come close, some villages are touched along the line, and certain things also get to impact us directly or indirectly. But I think the issue is more about what is happening repeatedly, in Yobe State and Buni State, where we've received repeated attacks, on both military personnel, villages being killed in good number, and international media equally reporting. On the media, you find maybe government saying 38 people killed, and on the other side, it's about the reality of what the people say. They talk about 180 and thereabout. So all these figures are outrageous. And I know too that we've been close enough, and I've had information even from the military establishment telling us what it's been like, on their own formations and on their own operational units. So to my mind, we are to make an analysis covering basically 3 states of the Federation, Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa State on the northern flank there, where it borders Borno, and we have repeated cases, some cases reported, others not reported. Hello.
The Sambisa forest, the infamous Sambisa forest. I thought there were orders at one time to comb and clear the Sambisa forest, but apparently it's that has been an easier said than done task, because at the end of the day it is thought that they make a quick recourse for there, and it is thought that if they were to be pursued into the forest, that's like a suicidal operation, for they have a better knowledge of the topography. What's the situation in that regard?
Well, I'm not in the military establishment more precisely. I'm an ordinary citizen of Nigeria and an onlooker, a very curious one for that matter. And I'm also in position to say exactly, based on the impact that affect members of my own family, we the civilians, we the bloody civilians. And I think to put it appropriately, one tells you, if you look at the geography of Northeast, the forest stretches and ends somewhere, closer to Adamawa State, if not into it, dovetailed into Adamawa State stretches of Gumbi and Hong local government. And by so doing, the place is mountainous, covering, some local governments in Borno, the Damboa, the Biu axis, where there is a military establishment. The valley there offers a lot of impediments, at least movements. Those in the military can tell you better and make better assessment as to the kind of difficulties they have along the line. But that is not to say that this thing is ongoing for quite a number of years, 10 years, even 5 years is good enough for any military force anywhere, no matter how ragtag or irresponsible they are, to master their terrain and to tell you exactly what it is. Yes, it happens, but we know that the basic philosophy of warfare that Nigerian army is trained for, mountain and jungle, warfare is prominent on their own battlecraft, and they know it very well. So within the period, one cannot say that they failed, but one can equally say that they've not been able, to meet up their general expectation as to what to do to block them. Because most of the operations they've been engaged in those areas, as difficult as the terrain have been reactionary, not preemptive, have been ongoing, and sometimes deliberately these insurgents have direct attack on them and get them in their own camps, super camps or whatever it is that they've been able to place in place. But the understanding is when a military formation is attacked, it shows that the civilian villages, the population and the settlements are highly vulnerable and therefore receive it. So the earlier they do it, the better for us, because if they don't, these characters have succeeded in establishing kingdoms and a country of their own, collecting taxes, harassing citizens, and doing all manner of things that you can think about. Now we're spanning a situation of over 10 years, of attack on our own ordinary citizens. You dare not ply the continental route or the national routes, or even the rural ones that connect villages and towns around the axis. So you have to keep praying and sometimes have to think of how you are going to do your own protection or to protect yourself. So this time around, if soldiers are killed, what else would the ordinary citizens do? Perhaps they have to rush to their own tents, and maybe the shout will have to be, "Oh Israel, rush to your own camps." And I think that's just the bad situation and what we are receiving, on this note. So comfortably or more seriously, whether we like it or not, we have to accept the fact that these guys are holding territories in Nigeria. Looking at the character of what they've done precisely in Yobe State, attacking even local government headquarters, attacking the presidential lodge, moving away with vehicles, that tells you that they are free. And they came to Yobe in high visibility of what is described to be riding nothing less than 50 motorcycles. And if you can have that kind of visibility at any moment, simple Google search, simple picture from the satellite, simple reports from the natives can give you a collaborative report to understand the simple fact that something is highly relaxed. And either the nation is not taking that serious, or we as a nation or country, whatever it is we call ourselves, are not serious about stopping this issue. I'm meant to understand that anywhere there is a government stamping site, by that I mean local government secretariat, by that I mean lodge, governor's lodge or presidential lodge in any local government. Anything that touches it, touches Asoro. So it's a serious thing, and if only our security services can equally come, acknowledge, and tell you that yes, this has taken place, and nothing is done, at least to bring these characters to book, I think we've missed the mark. Like we once discussed with you, you told me that these guys live in rings. If they are pursued from one place, they move to the next. It is almost becoming predictable that even outsiders, if you take a very good analysis of media reports, you'll accept with me that these characters can be predicted. Because if they attack one village, they have a direction they go to. And definitely you are going to predict and even know the next village that these characters are going to attack. So if that is it, what for God's sake is happening to our own intelligence gathering? What are they talking about? Maybe when they talk about synergy between the DSS, the army, and all the agencies involved, the police, you see and you hear that only on the radio, or you get it only on the television, and you see foreigners coming to tell you exactly what to do with that particular thing. So is it that we are living just by theories and not practice of reality? Or is it that something is holding us? That thing is what is stopping us from achieving exactly our objective and doing that which is right. In my mind, as an analyst and as a concerned citizen,
yes,
I will insist that except the military establishment, the security services establishment in Nigeria sits up and follow the philosophy by which they are established to bring protection to the people, I think this issue is becoming ridiculous, and the outside world is laughing at us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngamsa. In fact, you have sort of summarily answered the question I was going to ask. So what does all of this tell you in terms of a renewed hope that this is the mantra that we were all singing, that look, whatever it was like before, things are going to be different. And you also asked another question in there. What exactly is happening with our own intelligence gathering? This is going to make it even harder because, subject to what you think, one hears that these expeditions, these killing expeditions, have been in the nature of punitive strikes. Say, oh, you know how to talk to the authorities, right? So you now descend on a people, helpless people, with their superior firepower. In fact, you even said it, this is getting even more ridiculous by the day. So what hope is there? We can't give up hope, but really, analyze the scant hope that is available, or is it more than scant?
Well, you know, recently I followed the NSA, that's the National Security Advisor, where he was given, you know, a scorecard of what they've been able to do. That in itself is commendable, looking at the space, you know, and the largeness and the enormosity of the problem. You know, we have to take contextual issues to mark. He specifically talked about, you know, the personalities that are involved in doing banditry in some parts, and even the Boko Haram. That they also measured, you know, the limited successes they've had, you know, on the vanishing of some of the characters that are masterminding that particular thing. Now, number two, you can follow exactly what they're also doing as to the idea of trying to clamp down on financiers of this terror. You know, they've been able to bring even a lady sponsor or some kind of things like that, and they're following them more effectively and having some results. Let's assume that strategically that is going to give us, you know, a space to accept the fact that the NSA, the security establishment in Nigeria, is working at least to bring the situation under control. But then, like you rightly said, we're not to underestimate where these characters are coming from, or even the intensity and the volume and the engagement and the sponsorship that goes into Boko Haram. Perhaps our nation, at a practical level, are not trying to understand, you know, what other people have understood. A number of us have been brought in by non-governmental organizations, specialists, you know, that can offer philanthropy in the area of security advice. They've given us training, and what they tend to tell us and what we tend to learn, and even what the communities get to understand, is the fact that something can be done. Because at that level of engaging local communities, you know, such NGOs have done very credible things, good enough at least for security services to adopt. At least, if you meet an ordinary person in anywhere there is a crisis, Yobe, Borno, Adamawa, or wherever NGOs have been to, they have locals, they have vigilantes, they've even trained our own formal security services on how to utilize, you know, early warning, early response technique, at least to get good information enough to preempt and to stop some of these things. Now, one sets to wonder, you know, why there is a gross failure in the aspect of trying to bring this collaboration, not only between the security services, but also between local communities and traditional rulers good enough to do it.
Okay.
Now, let me assume that with all my frustration on this issue and some of my participation in raising awareness and sharing concern, that something will effectively be done and that the NSA will re-strategize and make something that will have to be more of people-oriented kind of security-generated information good enough for them to establish and to do that which is right.
Okay.
Now we are tired in this country. You know, our frustration goes on that attacks are done on ordinary citizens, and records that are coming from what people are saying about, number of casualties differ from what comes from the security agencies. I think that is not done anywhere in the whole world. When we take examples of civilized democracies, organized nations, and even smaller nations, when something happens, you get to hear only one figure about the number of casualties.
Yeah, that's right.
Not the security forces saying 39, or 40-something, and then the citizens themselves are saying over 100.
Exactly.
So who do you believe? That shows that there is an open space.
One second,
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Ngamza. Let me bring in Mr. George, who I want to thank you very much, Mr. George. You've held on for so very long. Thank you very much for your patience. Go ahead, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yari.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to the special advisor.
Yes.
Uncle Yari, I do not see any difference between Boko Haram and the bandits and the kidnappers. They simply change modes. It is the same group of people. You see, when the military concentrated in the northeast, they sort of relapsed and then moved to other areas. That's where the bandits came about and the kidnappers making money. Our security agents are also trying to tackle the bandits in one zone or the other. They will go back. They couldn't have been idle for 2 years or so now that they were, quiet in the northeast, for them to just suddenly come up again. What surprises me, many people have been advising security agencies on their approach to these things. Why don't you form groups of security agents and approach this thing from different directions, zone by zone? This is what I mean, Uncle Yori. If it is northeast you want to tackle, send a team of security people and let those security people surround them and be coming to them from different directions and fish them out. Do it in the same way in another zone. But I don't know, the military may be wise. I don't know why they do not want to adopt that approach. A few days ago, I saw the Minister of State for Defense in military uniform trying to do some kind of showmanship. It's not called for, Uncle Yori, that they want to fish out bandits and kidnappers in a particular zone, I think northwest. Do they think that the criminals are fools? When you give them notice that you are coming, you are already telling them what to do. Yesterday, I saw one of the criminals or the leaders of the criminals on YouTube. He was boasting, say, look at these people. Do you think we are in this crime business if we were afraid of you? He had the effrontery to do that because you have given him notice that you are coming and he will plan on how to avoid you. This is the way I think there is need for change of strategy. I remember Tony Ofeyeton was saying this thing in one of the programs that you have hosted on this topic.
Yes.
But
yes.
whether the military is to listen is another thing. We need to change strategy to be able to tackle these criminals once and for all.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. And again, once more, thank you very much for holding on all the time that you did. I didn't want to interrupt Dr. John Ngamsa at the time. Now, the ideas about maybe if a strategy apparently is not working the way we thought it would, we could change it. That idea, that notion has been on the table for quite a while. And we've heard the military chiefs talk along those lines, that the president has now given an order. We are going to do all that is necessary, and there's going to be a zero tolerance. But it's like we've heard it all before, and nothing has changed. And as we were just being told, they actually are boasting online that these people, are they serious? Are they really serious? And so this is a big problem because it does look like they can strike at will, and not only are they doing so, they're thumbing their nose up at us as they are doing it. So So this is where I was almost giving up hope, and I was hoping that you would say, well, it's not as bad as that. But you yourself are saying that this is it's a tough situation, to put it in perhaps professional terms. Because whereas we are appreciative of all our men and women in uniform, is there a sense in which Nigerians expect more? And do you think that they can legitimately do so, Dr. Ngamza?
You know, when you look at the profile of the kind of training given to our security services, you'll be shocked to notice that there are a few countries in the world that can boast of that. While the United States of America can think of technology, can think of philosophies, can think of development and academics, but they live on their own world, in their own world. Nigeria, our security services have been taken to nearly all over the Federation, all over the world, the globe. They've been to Scotland Yard, they've been to FBI, they've gone to Russia, they've received covered and overt, knowledge on virtually everything. When you get into the library and you curiously maybe just look at what they study, I tell you, it's world standard. I've had reasons to interact, with good students, of the War and Peace College or thereabout, and I noticed that these are fantastic people. There are even professors in there. They have all manner of training. They know the basics. But now coming back to where we can actually apply what is sincerely required of us, I think it's the question we need to ask ourselves, or else we need to fold ourselves as a nation and just simply remember Humpty Dumpty, who sat on the wall and had a great fall, and broken into pieces, and that not even king's horses can pull. That should not be our story in Nigeria. While I cast this picture, I want to insist on the basic fact that there is something they can do. They know it and they can do it. Perhaps where it is not working is the disconnection between the knowledge they've learned some other places and the reality on ground. Let me just give you this example. Some time ago, I listened to a police expert spoke about what they're doing all across the nation. And they mentioned two critical and tactical words, talking about mapping and pattern analysis. That insecurity analysis helps you to narrow and to do a feasibility that you can utilize strict budgets to it to achieve exactly certain things that you want to do. On a minimal scope, I don't like drawing you back to Adamawa State as a model, but I want to tell you that we have a governor that sits on it to act about pattern, about mapping, that sits on it to act about early warning, early response, that stays on it, on quite a number of occasions. Governor Ahmadu Fintri have asked, questions to do with the idea of how do we actually sustain and advise these people, to know the difference. To borrow his words, he says something kinetic and non-kinetic. And I was shocked that the governor at his sitting knows exactly what these particular terms are. And he directs. And in his own limited space, I assure you that he is doing it more effectively than anywhere that I can read. Because as it is now, in my own office where you are seeing, I have a map of the entire notice zone, and I try to update exactly what comes in based on the report that I receive. And by doing so, you can simply have a pattern. You can understand that these people have attacked this so place, utilizing this kind of strategy, and by so doing, we're expecting that they're going to do that, coming to other places. Oh. My governor has a model, and I assure you that on security management, beyond what he's doing, he knows and have placed, the vigilantes tactical, tactical level, good enough with their vehicles that he has donated, at least to contain some of these characters.
Okay, Doc.
So that is not to brag
one second,
about what
Doc.
he's doing.
I beg your pardon, Doctor.
Yes. Thank you.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but Professor Edmund in Enugu wants to join the conversation. Good morning to you, Prof.
Hello, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling,
Good
sir.
morning.
Good morning, Professor Edmund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Yori, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to your guest over there.
Dr. Ngamza.
Yeah, Dr. Ngamza.
Good morning.
Yes, I've been listening to what Dr. Ngamza has been saying and what George said. We've been discussing this matter over and over again.
Yes.
Yori, your program, as if your program has been devoted to fighting insecurity in Nigeria. So it's shameful. It's shameful that a nation like Nigeria, the so-called giant of Africa, the giant of the black race, cannot defeat ragtag boys holding this nation to ransom. It's very unfortunate, to say the least. There is this collective military failure. The military, the NSA, the police, NCNDC, that collectively failed and disappointed this nation. I mean, for how long shall we continue to talk about all this nonsense in Nigeria?
Okay, okay, Professor.
I'm totally ashamed.
Indeed. Thank you very much. A lot of people will be feeling that sense of frustration as well. Dr. John Ngamza,